Hey y'all, how you doing? It's your girl Emma D here, thinking thoughts about things. And I want to think thoughts about the newest organ system that apparently we all have and don't know as much about as we should. So, this conversation is kind of a continuation of yesterday's conversation about logic versus emotion. But we can pretty much ascertain that logic lives in what we consider the brain. Emotion is a little harder to pinpoint. Emotion can come out in many ways, like when bad things happen, we can feel it in our hearts or in our gut or in different places in the body, which is kind of weird, right? Because we don't really have a way to define why we feel things, where we feel them. Until now, I got you, girl. Your girl's got you. So I'm going to be reading an article. It is a little lengthy and scientific. I'm going to break it down as best as we can to try and understand what it is we might be missing with this particular body system. So, fascia, the newest system of the body. Of course, this article is linked in the description box below if you would like to take a look for yourself. There are some amazing visuals in here. Let's talk about it. So, fascia, the newest system of the body. A loose, chaotic network operating separately but with the global unified goal, says Robert Klipp. He was actually talking about the research community when he made the statement, but the metaphor of the fascia system itself was lost on no one. In an era of medicine producing sicker and sicker people, being treated conventionally in more and more specialized clinical silos, the fascia system coming to center stage is a hopeful metaphor for more unified, collaborative, integrous, interdependent times ahead. Fascia is the system of resilience, integrity, and exchange. It is a timely time for us to be discovering the importance of fascia. So what is fascia, right? Fascia and connective tissue. The terms are not synonymous. Connective tissue and fascia are not one and the same. The body is formed from just 4 primary tissue types. Connective tissues are one of the 4 tissue types that form the body. Fascia is one of the 9 organ systems. It isn't just semantics. Now let's think about that real quick, because now that they've categorized fascia as an organ system, see, growing up, I was always taught that the largest organ in the human body was the skin, and we now know that not to be true. So we're going to talk about this, but this is in fact the absolute largest organ in the human body, and we should be paying a lot more attention to it. So, fascia. To be categorized as connective tissue, 3 conditions must be met. First, there must be cells present. Second, there must be a fibrous component. And third, there must be ground substance or a matrix. A good visual analogy can be found when thinking about reinforced concrete. Rocks go in. We can think of these rocks as the cells, which in reality are actually secreting the ground substance and forming the fibers. Metal support rods are inserted. We can think of these as collagen, elastic, or reticular fibers representing the fibrous components. And finally, the cement, or the ground substance. When the ground substance is still fluid, while kept in motion, we have a tissue, something more like blood. As the ground substance becomes increasingly firm, the analogy progresses to one of proper connective tissue, cartilage, and finally bones. Okay? Notice none of the structures listed are fascia. Fascia is not a connective tissue. Fascia is a system of the body formed in large part by fibrous connective tissue. It can be separated from, and in some cases categorically include, other specific organized structures. Fascia varies in thickness, density, and the amount of fat, collagen fibers, elastic fibers, and tissue fluid it collects. It could be thought of as 3-dimensional, web-like structure that contains, organizes, and supports all of the parts of the human body. A snag in one part of the web necessarily impacts the entire structure. It has amazing properties. Fascia surrounds every single structure in the human body, allowing for the perfect adaptive balance of tensile strength, connective integrity, with gentle suspensory support and ample movement for optimal functioning. It is a full body system. In the introduction to the book that accompanied the 2007 First International Fascia Research Congress in Boston, they offered this definition. Fascia is the soft tissue component of the connective tissue system that permeates the human body, forming a whole body, continuous, three-dimensional matrix of structural support. It interpenetrates and surrounds all organs, muscles, bones, and nerve fibers, creating a unique environment for body system functioning. Findlay and Schlepp extended this to conclude all fibrous connective tissues, such as ligaments, tendons, reticulae, joint capsules, epinersis, organ and vessel sheaths, the meninges of the central nervous system, the periostea, and all of the endomysial and intermuscular fibers of the myofascia. And so, quite appropriately, for the first International Congress on Fascia, a first formal definition for fascia was born. It was only in 2015 that the American Association of Clinical Anatomists declared fascia an official organ system. This came only after the Elegant Daphne study conducted by Dr. Carla Stecco, while her work turned to weekend shops, modality certifications, holistic healthcare apparatuses, it made perfect sense in the grounding of the field to gross anatomy. Textbooks are being written now. So, we're talking about a system that is your entire body. It is a web-like structure that covers and interacts with each and everything inside of your body. All right. Sounds cool. Let's learn a little more. Cellular mechanics of the fascia. Cellular biologists were among the first international researchers in the fascia research community. There are many cellular mechanisms that will surely prove interesting in the decades of inquiry ahead. Collagen fibers are primarily fibers found in the fascia. Collagen is formed by the intermingling of three hollow tubes, which together form a triple helix. Each tube is filled with an ultrafiltrated fluid, which is very high in photons or light particles. Cerebrospinal fluid shares this similar quality. Collagen molecules are hydrophilic and attracting water molecules to them with tensional precision. These qualities allow fascia to act with great fluidity. Fluidity is fundamental to fascial function. It allows for ease of movement as well as provides a medium for effective paracrine intercellular communications. Fascia has the special electrical properties of being both piezoelectric and a semiconductor. So I want to just stop for a second and think about what that means, because we are talking about a system in our body that carries the most photons, light particles, okay? Carries our light systems. Also carries our water, which is its own interesting thing, because if we are in fact 70 to 80% water and we cut and we don't bleed, that means most of our water exists not in the liquid state, but in the plasma state, and being contained within the plasma state, it's in our fascia. So, okay, we have a system that carries our photons, that is piezoelectric, meaning it's a natural electrical conductant, and it's a semiconductor. That's very interesting to me. So let's see what else we might have in here that could be interesting for us to think about. Let's go with the 5 principles of fascia. Fascia needs to be dealt with within the parameters of its natural laws and response characteristics. One cannot treat fascia like muscle or bone and expect to get a lasting change in the fascial system. You wouldn't think you could treat your respiratory system like your digestive system. The dynamics of fascia and the fascial system are unique unto itself and are now starting to be recognized as such. Fascia isn't a technique you might think about trying. It is a system of your body every bit as important as any of the other and are as crucial to the whole as any could be. Providers from any background and people from their own self-care benefits can and should work to incorporate fascia in as many diverse ways as possible. These unifying principles were the outcome of the content analysis ending in 2009 and presented at the International Research Congress in Amsterdam this year. Firstly, the exchange principle. The facial matrix gives home to the cells of our immune system. It is the medium through which waste and nutrients are exchanged between cells and their body supply. It is where tension is handed off and redirected. The tangibles of this principle include fascial properties of mechanotransduction, semiconduction, piezoelectricity, crystallinity, hydration, continuity, and coercion. So exchange principle. Its ability to exchange information with other parts of the body very quickly and efficiently using piezoelectricity, our electrical conductors, synapses within our body. Okay. The scaffolding principle. Our bodies are geometrically efficient. They have tensional integrity. Fascia acts as the guide wires that the rest of our structures organize around. Throughout the body, 45 and 90-degree angles are visible in the meshwork of fascia sheaths. Diagonal relationships abound. A fascinating, not yet understood pattern of 78-degree angles is also found at fiber cross striations. Structural integrity in the fascia makes it possible for other systems to function properly and most efficiently. So this is essentially what Eastern medicine has been talking about since the beginning of time, with the meridians, with different energy sources within our body. We could even go as far as to say chakras, right? Because we were just talking about areas within our fascial system that meet with many of these angles, many 45, 90-degree angles, and the not yet understood 78-degree angle patterns that intercross our entire bodies, right? So we have a grid, a meridian grid. Cool, because we now know where that's really coming from. The container principle. Fascia organizes our muscles and organs into separated but interwoven compartments and cavities. Just beneath the skin and the fatty layer is a fascial wetsuit that forms the outermost container of our entire body. Deep to this, there are fascial sheaths that identify individual muscle compartments, i.e. anterior thigh, or separate out large structures, i.e. carotid sheath. Within each of these compartments, each individual structure has its own fascial sheath. Within each individually sheathed muscle, every 100 or so muscle fibers are contained in their own fascial sheath called a fascicle. At the cellular level, each muscle fiber has its own fascial sheath. Each of these containers within a container are interwoven by the fibers of the fascial matrix. A snag anywhere in the matrix impacts the entire container. That's very important because we don't think of our bodies like that generally, right? We think that if something's wrong with my shoulder, it's what's wrong with my shoulder. But if we were to think about this a bit deeper and say that there is a casing, call us a human sausage, and the sausage casing is this system we're discussing here, the fascial system. So if my casing has a snag over here, it might pull it tight over here, keeping this open, but what it really did was expose this over here. So now I'm trying to treat this when really here's my snag. So this gets really interesting when we start thinking about if our body has an entire web over it and a snag here can cause an issue somewhere else. We might not be treating our body's pains correctly at all, because essentially, if you look at it this way, it's not necessarily the muscle that hurts, it's the casing around the muscle that's having an issue. So this is interesting because we have this very, very electrical system running over, in, and around everything in our bodies, but we're not using those impulses to try and properly work on some things. So, okay, sorry, I digress. So the next principle, the hugging principle. The fascia matrix hugs its areas of weakness, injury, pain, or misuse. Think of the posture of a person following open heart surgery. Picture what your skin does as the wound is healing. Think of how a person holds their arms open when it's broken. What do we do when we have abdominal pain? The fascial matrix will try to lend support to the areas that are perceived as in danger by our nervous system or immune system. Studies have shown that mechanical stress will cause fibroblasts, cells that make collagen, into myofibroblasts, cells that can smooth muscle. Cells that have smooth muscle. Unfortunately, this hugging can yield layering and compensatory patterns, which will eventually become too difficult for our musculoskeletal system to efficiently support. Interesting, hugging principle. So in this, I want to go right back to what they were saying about the other systems. So the fascial matrix will try to lend support to areas that are perceived as in danger by our nervous system and immune systems. So we have these two systems that are making ascertainments about what's going on in the body based on what the facial system is saying, which is intriguing, right? Because if we go back to the whole pulling of the web thing, if a snag in the web anywhere impacts the entire container in that system, but in the other systems, they are looking for a direct space of impact, the direct issue. We have our body systems that aren't properly communicating here, don't we? Which is what's building to these compensatory patterns, which become very difficult, or aging, and the issues that we deal with in life. All right. The fifth principle of fascia. The collagen fibers that predominate throughout the matrix at a molecular level are a triple helix filled with fluid. At its core, it is nonlinear. Fascia will not respond to linear stretching. Instead, it has a very unique, slow, sustained, meandering quality to the release characteristics observed clinically. Some of this may be explained by the sol-to-gel transformation ability of the collagen molecules. Takeaway. Fascia, together with our muscles and skeletal systems, give us our posture, defines the quality of our movements, holds our tension patterns, and provides a structural casing for nerves, arteries, and veins, all skeletal muscle, and nearly all organs of the body. Other than the muscles that act on the vertebral column, few muscles cross more than one joint. When we feel a sensation that does cross multiple joints, there is a good likelihood that the sensation is fascial or nervous. In the embryo, fascia develops before muscle. Further muscle cells migrate into the fascial sheaths and then develop into the muscle that we can identify by name. This means that the muscles are to a great extent at the whim of the fascia casing that encloses them. Releasing the muscle will have little long-term benefit if the fascia is not coaxed into better functioning as well. Fascia is a strictly afferent, a sensory, relationship with the nervous system. We cannot tell our fascia what to do. It is not under efferent or motor control of the nervous system like our muscles are. Instead, our fascia is constantly telling our nervous system what is going on in the fascial environment. Fascia has natural response characteristics to activities such as rocking, shaking, bouncing, traction, compression, floating, direction of ease, unwinding, and diagonal reinforcement. Holistic therapies such as Rolfing, Traeger, myofascial massage, yin yoga, body rolling, and in general many physiotherapies make use of some of what these fascial response characteristics in their therapeutic approaches. When people have thoughtful practitioners attempting to increase strength and or flexibility and they cannot make gains, it is the fascial container in malpatterned. It is that the fascial container is malpatterned. Then the muscles does not have the functional room to hypertrophy or lengthen. In summary, in another generation or two, this won't be confusing. It will likely seem silly that it ever was. Kids will learn in health class that they have a fascial system. Branches of physical medicine like physical therapy and osteopathy will likely be the training grounds for skilled fascial therapists. Just as we have pulmonologists and yoga teachers both talking about breathing, we will have a spectrum of providers working with fascia. It is the large part of the shoulders of the industrial age that It is in large part on the shoulders of an industrial age that Western medicine educationally grows. We weren't in a paradigm looking to celebrate the connectedness and interdependentness of it all. We wanted to name and understand pieces and parts to make it easier to live in these machines called bodies. Many false truths have been handed down. We are ready for a new era. Fix the machine medicine is literally the lifesaver in crisis and trauma, but it doesn't serve us as well in the decades between. As we live longer, we need to do more to help our bodies adapt to wear and tear and the lives we live. Fascia holds the patterns, stories, and acquired inefficiencies to a fault. Wow. I think this is really interesting because we're now talking about the system that really puts answers to a lot of questions that have been going on. I mean, we all know that we're electrical, and most fables and stories that deal with any kind of magical powers have to do with electrical powers, right? You can send things, you can do things. Well, the reality is, if you do have an entire system that is a piezoelectric system working off of the great conductor that is our heart, with the force field that our heart sends out, yeah, it seems we might have some powers we weren't really all that interested in. So I like to think that through. We know about the whole like adrenaline rush thing and your ability to lift a car off of a kid if need be. Little grandma can do it. And when I was like, hey, you know, you have all these hormones rushing. It's a rush that gives you the extra boost you need. But according to this, that's not really true, right? Because they're saying that if the fascial system is impacted, the muscle simply cannot grow and move under it. It is of the fascia system to release that electricity, that movement, and that capability in times of need. So really, the adrenaline might not be the main driver there. It very likely could be the semiconductor, the piezoelectric model in the body that is giving the ability to do some of these extrasensory, unhuman type things that are very, very human. It would appear that these are things we're supposed to do, but all of us have snags in our systems because we were not properly taught about a web that needed to be taken care of. So as this is the system that stores our emotion and moves it throughout the body, it gives a really interesting place to start thinking about how powerful emotion really is within the body. Because if it is our brain that comes up with the thoughts, and we feel, hear, interact with thoughts within the brain space, but our emotional body is literally our entire body. Our emotions are being ran through this system, which makes sense, right? Because now you can understand why is it that, like, you feel kicked in the gut or something. Well, this system is tightening and releasing based on the needs of everything else perceived within the body. Makes a little more sense. It also means that particular feelings are probably housed in certain organ systems, and we just need to figure out what that looks like. But I think that the beginning of that is to start understanding this system and know that there is the largest organ in the body as of 2015. Wasn't taught when I was in school. I learned about the fascia system to some extent, and fascicles and all that. We were not at all told that this was a piezoelectric system. I was not at all taught that this was a crystalline system, a literal crystalline system within our body. Wasn't talked about the angling, because I was always kind of told that the meridians was BS and that wasn't how it worked, but it would appear that's exactly how it works, because these are the angles at which the web is woven. So you can find those particular nodes or points that multiple web fibers meet together. That's real, and then you would be able to release certain things. And if you had a map of how this web actually formed, it would make a lot more sense when you deal with like a Chinese acupuncture and stuff, and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna put this little tiny needle right here in your chest and it's gonna make like your lower back feel better. And like that doesn't make any sense, but okay, well, it does if you have the web. Like, if you actually understand where those particular nodes line up or where the snags are within your entire web, then you could start treating your body from that dynamic, not worrying about specifically what muscle hurts, but worrying about what compensatory muscles are really going on, what is going on within the sheath. The other thing I think is really cool about this is they're stating that your fascial network is created before your muscular system while in utero. Why do I find that interesting? Because essentially they're saying that we had the casing before we had the sausage. And if we start looking at that, maybe we can understand a little better why some developmental issues maybe happen the way they do if we're not actually looking at the muscle not being able to grow, but what was going on in the web that constricted the growth of the muscle in different ways. That's pretty cool, I think. But ultimately, my rant here is that I think this is the system that our magic lives in. This is the system that houses our electrical conduction and our ability to move energies throughout the whole body. It's no longer conceptual to say that you can literally move energies, and that's not woo woo at all. This is literally the system that houses your energy. And if you can clear up the web, right? If you get rid of all the snags, and you would freely and easily be able to move that energy pretty much at will. You would at least be able to sense it, and maybe we can get closer to understanding how the energy is flowing within our bodies. But the fact alone that we're getting to the point that we're discussing as humans that we are piezoelectric, that we are crystalline, that there are these amazing things going on in our bodies that we've never even fully discussed. And surprise, we have a new organ. So, hey, maybe do something nice for your fascia today. Go get a myofascial release massage, or get a roller, or just talk to your web and acknowledge its existence. Sit with it for a minute, because I think a lot of the power comes from just acknowledging, right, what we maybe didn't know before. So, yay, happy day. We maybe have a little bit better of an understanding of where our emotions live. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? I know, 26 minutes in and I read you biology. Sorry. But I think it's very important. And then we look at the fact that not only are we discovering, learning, adding new organ systems, we need to really wrap our heads around the fact that what has been told to us may not be true at all, and that is okay. We can say it's lies, we could say it was misinformation, we could say people just didn't know any better, as they kind of refer to here. For a long time, people just wanted to get a muscle named after them, or be the one to discover something. It wasn't so much about how it properly worked, it's just that you were the one to find it. Which means that things maybe have been found out of haste, and thinking we know what our bodies are capable of seems very detrimental at this point in human development. We need to be always able to go back to the drawing board and say, hey, maybe that wasn't right, and maybe this thing does make sense. So when people say stuff to you that maybe sounds super crazy, maybe it was a decade ago when someone was telling you about your meridians, or someone tried to tell you that you're electrical, or that you have crystals, and they're like, I don't have crystals. In fact, you do. You have crystals in your ears. That fact. You have crystals in this whole system. This is a crystalline system. So, tons of crystals in you. But don't take that stuff in and just go, those people are crazy. Maybe we need to just be learning to have a little more space about what is being presented as potentials, and a little less willing to just discount anything that doesn't align with what we've previously been taught. Because if people choose to do that with something like this and go, well, that wasn't an organ when I learned about it, so who cares? You're destroying your ability to heal your own body, which, make no mistake, bodies are made to heal. We are not cars. You do not get hit and then have to replace a fender. We heal. That's what we're made to do. It's just how we heal and how we go about helping our systems to heal. So I think that this introduces a grand new world in how we could go about treating healing in our human bodies, and what our medical providers are going to be able to do in the future. Also get us a bit more able to understand what our other talents and abilities are in this grand world. It's a fun game, right, guys? All right, that's my little 2 cents. Let me know what you guys think, and we'll talk about something different another day. Or not. All right, bye. Emma D out.